On this episode of Off the Beaten Path, we dig deep into the past of a northeastern Pennsylvania mining town. We get up close and personal with a shark in the dark. Chris takes his camera to his favorite zoo, and we play some games in the restroom. Pennsylvania is filled with interesting things. You just need to know where to look. Come with us right now as we go Off the Beaten Path.
Hello Path fans, and welcome to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. This is season number 5. Thanks for dropping by. We're in Jeff's old stomping ground.
Yes,
right here.
we are.
We're in Pardeesville, Pennsylvania, and actually we're at the Pardeesville playground. The rules to the playground right behind us. No vulgar language, Jeffrey.
I won't curse.
Now I see why you raised such an upstanding citizen, because you guys have some strict rules.
Yes, strict rules that we always abide by back here, yes. Yes, this is my old stomping grounds, and recently on my old stomping grounds, there was a little bit of a dig into the past of this mining town. Check it out. Over the summer, there has been an archaeological dig going on in the small patch town of Pardeesville. Since it was the town I grew up in, I had to take a closer look. When I first heard about the dig, images in my head were of an Indiana Jones-like guy pulling out the legendary past of Pardeesville, lost relics akin to the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. Well, the finds may not be as significant as these lost biblical artifacts, but they are pretty interesting nonetheless.
Here in this unit, just in this unit, I found the pipes, smoking pipes, and some cigarette filters. We're not sure, what time period the cigarette filters are from, but the pipes are definitely, historic. And I think that somebody was banished out of the house. Go smoke that out there. I don't want it in the house. And you connect with not only those people, but it connects you more with your roots. And that's, family's important around here. You can see it. All these, I think it's great that everybody from the neighborhood showed up. That's awesome.
Yeah, some of the most interesting finds were the kids' toys. There were some, the oldest ones with some clay marbles and some little dolls, little porcelain dolls. And that's from a time when the kids might have been working in the mines pretty young, so whether it was a very brief childhood or whether they could have a little time after work, but people grew up pretty fast finding that is cool. And then, above that, there's little plastic toy trucks from the early 20th century that kids dug here as well, so it's pretty cool to see both of those.
It's been really fascinating to think about the landscape of this community, the way the houses were built, how close they were together. I think one of the amazing things is we wanted to sort of plant this excavation right in the middle of what we saw in historic maps as being a very small community, a very tight-knit community. The way that these houses were built at different angles right next to each other is something I think that is a bit different from what we might think of as when we think about American suburban communities with square lawns, well-spaced, fences clearly defined. And these are people that lived 2.5 feet across with about 2.5 feet of space between their houses.
They didn't get paid a lot of money. They did not have necessarily good quarters to live in. And so how did they scrap and make a living and survive in this really tough landscape? And tough landscape meaning the job conditions that they had to live in and survive in.
The things they're finding, the pieces of glass, the pieces of pottery, I know they had some out at Eckley, and my grandmother had a bowl that same pattern as one of the pieces they had, and it's amazing. You kind of forget that it was the old miners' houses, and they lived here in the 1800s with no electricity, no running water, no anything, no cars, no nothing, and that the mines ran their lives. But they survived.
The research started back in 2010, one town over, at the site of the Lattimer Massacre. This led to the dig in Pardeesville, a town known in the mid-19th century as Lattimer No. 2.
I became very interested in the anthracite region back in the 1990s, and I participated in the centennial commemoration for for the Lattimer Massacre, which happened in 1997, and I always thought, well, this would be a really great place to work and do research. And so last summer, we began to do excavations in Lattimer 1, which is across the strippings along Canal Street, and we focused on one of the house lots. And so we thought it would be a great place to continue our research. So we thought that Pardeesville would be a real interesting place because that was originally Lattimer 2. It was run by the same company. And so the property that we're working on right here was at one time the center of the community. We had the church nearby. The major crossroads were located here.
I'll never forget the first thing I found at Lattimer was a nail. And I was just completely, I found a nail, you know? And it was just a nail, but it was something tangible. When you find those artifacts and you connect with the people that held them last, and you wonder about them, you know? Last year I found doorknob, and I always wondered, you know, what was it? Who was it that was turning this doorknob? What was the last time, you know, was it, a miner going to work? Was it the wife opening the door for him? Was it little kids running out to play? You know, it's amazing.
Even prior to these people coming here from University of Maryland, I was doing research on my own about the history of this town. But then when I heard that they were in Lattimer, and I was recommended by Joe Michel. He's a retired surveyor and engineer, and we were very close friends for many years. So I knew what was involved. So this is how this thing came to be. You know, they mentioned my name, and Mike called me, and one thing led to another. So I was aware of some of the maps and things that were around this area.
We decided to sort of focus our project first on the Lattimer Massacre, which is quite a tragic event and I think an important event in American history. But from there, we started to become interested also in the sort of aspects of everyday life and thinking about the way that the people involved in the massacre, particularly those that were striking, the way they lived their lives. And that sort of has drawn us into other aspects of local history. It's been really fascinating, I think, thinking about immigration and labor and in the coal industry.
If you'd like to learn more about the project, including the Lattimer Massacre, visit LattimerArchaeology.wordpress.com. There's a very detailed blog set up that goes into tremendous detail about the group's findings and what life was like in my hometown over 100 years ago.
Archaeology is really about going into the unknown. We had maps, we have historical documents, but we don't know much about everyday life. These are things that are not recorded. And so it's really an amazing journey to go from the beginning of the project to the end. And then as we work through the lab, work through the artifacts and the material and kind of put things together. After the excavation, we'll probably be in the lab for the next year and a half, actually cataloging this stuff. We'll be posting stuff on our blog.
Coming up next on Off the Beaten Path, we get an up-close and personal look with Shark in the Dark.